Hi, my name's Stephen and I'm going to show you how to make the Zhi Stool. These are the components you will receive when purchasing the stool. A large bucket, 3 stool legs, a metal locator and a pot of glue. We will start by shredding the paper. To do this, you will need a black bag, 15 newspapers, a pair of scissors and a paper shredder. To start off, take your newspaper, rip it into quarters and place it into the paper shredder. And the paper shredder will have cut the newspaper into small sections. And place the shred paper into a black bag. You should repeat this process till all your newspapers have been shred and placed into the black bag. If you don't have a paper shredder, rip the newspaper into strips, then cut them into smaller strips, and continue till you have cut all your newspapers. We can now start to pulp the paper. To do this, we will need a bucket, a smaller bucket, a baking tray, a jug of water, an electric whisk and a pillowcase. Take your bucket and fill it with newspaper up to that top line. We can then fill our bucket with water up to that top line. Take your whisk and mix the paper and the water for 10 minutes. This will break down the fibres in the newspaper to create pulp. To filter some of the water from the pulp, grab your pillowcase and place it into the smaller bucket and start by pouring your pulp into the pillowcase. Using the pillowcase, you can squeeze out some of the excess water from the pulp. Place the compressed pulp back into the bucket. Use the whisk to break down the pulp even more. Do this for 10 minutes. Your pulp will now have the appearance of small little pebbles. They should be damp and you should pop them into a shallow baking tray. Don't overfill the baking tray, just fill it up enough to cover the surface. Pop the baking tray in the oven for 15 minutes and you can start with your next batch of pulp. Repeat this procedure till all your newspaper has been pulped and cooked. You should have a large bucket full of pulp which goes past that top line. Make sure you're working on a clean, protected surface and lay out your pulp. And this is what your pulp should look like. Some bits might be slightly damp, but that's okay. We can now move on to setting the pulp. To set our pulp, we will need our large bucket, our pot of glue, the 3 legs, the leg locator, a roll of cling film and a rolling pin. Open your pot of glue and pour 1/3 of the pot onto the pulp. Fold in the pulp and start mixing it in with the glue. Mix in with your hands for 5 minutes. You can then start to add the remainder of the glue to the mix. To prevent the pulp from sticking with the bucket, line the inside of the bucket with cling film. The lining of the cling film should pass that top line. You can now fill the bucket with the pulp, but only fill it up to the bottom line. And using the rolling pin, you can compress the pulp, and this will ensure it takes the shape of the bucket. Grab the metal locator and your legs and line up the locator pins with the holes in the legs. Attach all 3 legs and place it centrally into the bucket, making sure all the legs are touching the rim of the bucket. Once the locator is central, start adding the remainder of the pulp, filling it up to that top line, and ensure there is enough pulp in and around the legs. Again, use the rolling pin to compress all the pulp. The stool can be left in the bucket for 48 hours to dry to make sure it takes on the form of the bucket. To remove the bucket from the stool, turn upside down and start gradually lifting the bucket. Remove the cling film from the outside of the stool and leave the stool to dry for a week. And there you have your final completed Zhi Stool. Thanks for watching.